We were to have a meeting last week, and we were asked to defer for both ministries as the respective ministers wanted to prepare and present in the sectoral presentation debate before the ministries appear in front here with us at the PAAC. So today we have the Ministry of Tourism, which was slated originally for today. So I hope that we have a good meeting and hope that the members are more prepared this time for this meeting. Any apologies for absence? Yes, Ms. Hannah, Tamika Lee, Crystal Lee, sorry, Tamika Davis, Crystal Lee, asked for apologies for her.
Mrs. Holness.
Right, Mrs. Holness also communicated such.
Mr. Enriquez is on his way, it will be late.
Okay, yeah. Any other? No? All right, thank you. Confirmation of minutes of meetings held. Members, we have 4 sets of minutes. Yes, the last meeting we should have confirmed the minutes for January 20 and 21st, which we didn't. So those all minutes were circulated. So I'm moving for the confirmation of the minutes for meetings held on January 20th, 21st, 29th, and April 21st. So
the day, both of them say Wednesday, January 20th and Wednesday, January 21st. I believe one would have been a Thursday.
Well, the meetings were held on the 20th, on a Wednesday, really. So.
And
can you pull the mic down because I'm not hearing you?
I'm just checking the calendar to see. It says meeting held on Wednesday, January 21st, and Wednesday, January 20th. So one would have been.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
One must have been a Thursday, or.
It was one was a Wednesday and one was a Thursday. Yes. So that is a correction to be made there. Yeah, it was a standing. It was the supplementary estimates. Yes. Yeah. All right. So can we move that there? Members, these, especially the ones from January, I mean, the standing finance, we did the supplementary budget, Ministry of Finance. Yeah, so those and all minutes I know for a fact were circulated. Yeah, so can I get someone to move confirmation of the minutes?
So move.
Thank you. Seconded. Thank you very much. Any amendments? No? No amendments? Any matters arising from the minutes? Just on the matter of we had asked for some reports from okay, so the ones from the JUTC, they're asking for an extension. Okay. All right. So members, the JUTC Ministry of Transport is asking for an extension to submit the reports that we had asked for later this week. Are there any other matters arising for the members? No? All right. Members, new business. We're going to be reviewing a report submitted by the Ministry of Tourism on the measures to revive the tourism sector during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we also, after we will be looking at the schedule that has been circulated and taking recommendations, if any other. All right, so we'll invite in the Minister of Tourism. Good morning, Madam PS, Director, and other members of the team of the Ministry of Tourism. This morning, we are here with us at the PAC. We're looking at various ministries, agencies, and departments, looking at the effect of COVID-19 on the various industries and ministries and departments across government, seeing the impact, what is being done to mitigate against any fallout, if there are any, how is it that we can assist from this side in helping to, a rebound in the industry, any policies, any budgetary gaps, anything that we from the committee side can help to lobby. I always remind permanent secretaries and members from departments and agencies that we're not only here to find out what shortcomings there are, but how it is that we can help these ministries, departments, and agencies just become more better units on behalf of the people of Jamaica. So I think we will open up by asking the permanent secretary if she has any opening remarks, or any other member of your team, and then we will then go to the members for questioning. Okay.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the PAAC. Good morning, Ms. Bailey. We thank you for this opportunity to appear before the PAAC to discuss our report on tourism's COVID-19 impact and response measures. The report was previously circulated January 2021, and as you know, we're still in the pandemic. So the information remains relevant, but if there's a need for additional information, we're certainly prepared to provide that. So let me introduce the team we have here this morning. Next to me is Mr. Donovan White, Director of Tourism, Jamaica Tourist Board. And beside him is Dr. Kerry Wallace, Executive Director of the Tourism Enhancement Fund. Behind Dr. Wallace is Mr. Stephen Edwards, Acting Executive Director for Tourism Product Development Company. And beside him is Mrs. Joy Roberts, and she is the Executive Director for Jamaica Vacations, Short Jamvac. And behind me is Ms. Janelle Ray Bowie. She is Director for Economics and Facilitation in the Ministry of Tourism, and so she's our number cruncher. To reduce the number of persons here this morning, we only took 4 of our EDs for the bigger entities, and the report, though, contained information on the other entities. That's Montego Bay Convention Center, Devon House Development Company, Milk River Hotel and Spa, and Bath Fountain. So the report includes stuff on all of the entities, but we only carry a subset just to reduce the numbers in this COVID environment. And so at the end of January, we submitted, as was requested, a brief report on the impact of COVID on the tourism sector and the measures being considered to revive and expand economic activities during and after the pandemic. As the committee is well aware, the Jamaican economy is particularly tourism dependent, and the tourism sector was gravely and still is being impacted by this global pandemic, COVID-19. This led to the closure of Jamaica's border to international travel on March 25th, 2020. This resulted in the closure of the tourism establishments such as hotels, villas, attractions, shops, ground transportation, etc. For April and May, there was virtually no activity in the major components of the tourism sector. This led to a reduction in revenue for tourism operators and entities that supply the tourism industry, leading to widespread job losses and economic downfall. Jamaica opened its borders on June 15, 2020, which allowed for international travel and minimal activities in the tourism sector. For the January to December 2020 period, Jamaica welcomed over 1.3 million visitors, which was a 68% reduction when compared to the previous year. Jamaica also recorded foreign exchange earnings of $1.3 billion, which was a 64% decline in comparison to 2019. From March to December 2020, the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic led to a reduction of 36.7 billion Jamaican dollars in direct revenue from the tourism sector because of the fallout in airport charges and taxes, GCT, GART, which is a guest accommodation room tax, TF collections, and cruise taxes. To cushion the impact of COVID-19, the Ministry of Tourism and our public bodies collaborated and implemented several initiatives. Some of these initiatives entailed further collaboration with key stakeholders such as other ministries, the Ministry of Health and Wellness, for example, Ministry of Finance, National Security, and our key private sector partner, Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association. The report that we submitted outlines a variety of projects and programs that were implemented or are still being implemented, and it also outlines major challenges that are being experienced by the sector. Mr. Chairman, we are still in a pandemic, as you know, but the sector is still working hard. We are hopeful. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and tourism is resilient. We remain so, and our strategies now are to rebound stronger and better as soon as this pandemic passes. The report has some detail, and we have the various EDs here. So we are prepared to respond to any questions raised or to expand on issues as may arise. So, Chairman, I thank you for this moment.
Thank you. Director, do you want to expand on opening remarks, more detail in numbers?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. The PS quite accurately accounted for the numbers. What I will, I suppose, add is to reinforce the point that we have had a tremendously challenging year since March, year and months since March 2020. In many respects, we have used this time very well in terms of, re-examining our industry, re-examining the markets, beginning to look at recovery in an aggressive way. Speaking specifically for the tourist board, we have not relented on being present in the marketplace. We have hardened and indeed deepened our online and virtual experiences, as well as our technologies that support those experiences. We've also ensured that we have used the time and the resources we have available to us to refashion the presentation of Destination Jamaica through new content, new development of content for attractions, content for the destination, content for all our various marketing pillars, and being able to literally activate those virtually, and created a marketplace that is now well and truly in demand, that we are aggressively working to activate over the next several quarters until we are back to a level of stability and growth again. So that's where, from the tourist board perspective, we are focused, and of course working very much hand in glove with all the other agencies, TPDCO, TEF, JAMVAC, and of course our parent ministry gives us all the support we need at this time.
All right, thank you. Members, would you? Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. Welcome, ministry team and your agencies. I want to just draw on a point that you made, Mr. White. When I listen to you enumerate all that is being done, I said, well, all will be well when all that is done. But what I would like for you to do is to give us a sense of those things that you mentioned are being done, because it is obvious nobody is traveling, so we can't, hence the numbers that the PS spoke about are where they are, and that's basically a global phenomenon. So while we are down, the best we can do is to prepare for when that environment changes, that we can make the best of it. It's against that background we, as the chairman indicated at the outset, we don't only look for problems, right, as some people might want to believe, but to see how we can assist you. What are some of those things that are being done in this downtime? Right? You're on the marketing side, unlike your other colleagues, which are on the infrastructure side, the attractions and the other things that are critical to the sector. But from the standpoint of getting people to come, what are those, I would say, elaborate things that you make passing mention of that you are being done to cause us to expect that it will be better when the skies open up, so to speak, or the planes begin to fly into Jamaica? What is being done in the marketplace for those things to happen?
Thanks for the question, member. Let me first of all say that people are flying. There's no doubt about it. Certainly not in the numbers that we're at pre-pandemic levels, but we have seen consistent growth in our arrival numbers month on month since we reopened our borders in June of 2020. In fact, we would have in December when this report was written, our partners were showing somewhere in the order of about 25 to 28% occupancy bookings for the first quarter of 2020. We, at the Tourist Board, we also track future bookings in terms of room nights sold. And what we're seeing now coming from the markets is that we are seeing that our partners are operating at occupancies that are roughly about between 50 and 60% of 2019 levels of room nights sold. That tells us, and this goes all the way out to August, September, so right through the summer. Complementing that, we also have had a tremendous amount of support from our airline partners. We today have already confirmed some 890,000 seats to the destination through the end of August from the United States, compared to 945,000 in 2019. You'll always hear me now use 2019 as almost a benchmark or base year, because that's the year we have to compare with and not 2020. The UK market, which just opened in terms of Jamaica allowing UK traffic in and UK allowing travelers out internationally, have some 175,000 seats committed to the destination through the summer, and already have somewhere in the order of about 175,000 seats as well committed for the winter. I say this because without air seats, the tourism industry is dead. What we have seen is a consistent level of confidence being placed in the destination by our airline partners, all of them. So much so that out of the United States, for example, our partners JetBlue have opened 2 new gateways out of the US for the summer, out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and out of Newark in New Jersey. Never flew from those gateways before. The only 2 new gateways they have opened out of the US for the summer is to Jamaica. That tells us that there's a level of demand for the destination that the airlines are seeing, feeling, hearing, and are acting on. From that perspective, that gives us then the positioning to be able to, A, restart our advertising, which we have done. We now are advertising on all the major networks in the United States through the end of June. We have now appointed, through approvals from Cabinet, our new PR agencies for the US, Canada, and the UK. Those agencies have been fully onboarded and are now actively representing and creating opportunities for the destination. What we have been doing in terms of building to this point, our sales teams in the markets have, like I said, have not rested. They have created I'm trying to find the apt word to describe this, but they have created a phenomenal amount, the travel agent community, that we've always had that affinity, but we have deepened it, meaning that we have expanded it. We have added new agents. We have added agents to the land selling of Jamaica that were only selling cruise before, so we are now diversifying our travel agent marketplace. We're moving from people selling only land or only cruise to selling both. We have revamped our One Love reward program, and what that is, it's a reward program that we have for our Jamaica travel specialists. These are travel agents who are specifically trained to sell Jamaica. We reward them with points that they can use to redeem Jamaican gifts from our online store. We do all this to continue to engage this particular segment of the trade, simply because the travel agent community still delivers 60% of travelers around the world. And you know, we get lost in the fact that most of us look for travel opportunities online. But the truth is, after you look for it, you need somebody to ensure that what you're buying is what you should be buying. One, or to consult with to make sure that you're getting value for your money. And that's what the travel agents have become. They've become that trusted advisor that advises people where to go, when to go, how to go. What we have done is to build a relationship with that community. So during the lockdown periods, we were doing online farm trips. We were creating virtual tours of Jamaica so that when we engage them on a weekly basis through webinars, we could engage them with our partners, we could have training sessions, we could show them what's happening in the hotels. When we opened the borders June 20, we took them virtually through hotels, showed them how the protocols work, what they should tell their customers to expect when they come to Jamaica. And then we transition from that now into actual physical farm trips. So we now have smaller groups of agents and trade partners that come to Jamaica almost weekly in collaboration with us and the hoteliers and the attractions. We have done some really innovative things, sir, with things like we had a virtual wedding last year where 100 couples got married in Jamaica virtually on the beach. That just created a firestorm of chatter and communication online that was wonderful for the destination. We did JPEX, which is our trade exchange, product trade exchange program, virtually, never before done. Now all other destinations are following our lead. CHTA is just currently, as of today, doing their marketplace virtually. So what we've done in the last year is to truly allow Jamaica to take its rightful place as a leader in the tourism destination marketing by just ensuring that we engaged early, stayed engaged, and continually innovate and use technology to ensure that we penetrated at all levels of the trade right across the world.
Chairman, with your permission, I'm glad that you went over to the things that were being done. In the earlier part of the presentation, you spoke about what has been happening with the stakeholders and so on. Tourist board, which is where you are, one of the big sore points has always been the adequacy of marketing. I saw you were very kind to your PS in your opening remark when you mentioned that the parent ministry is doing all that it can to support your ventures. Would you say that with regards to your marketing program and budget and funding? That's one. And two, I gather much of what you speak about that you're doing in the latter part of your presentation is in our traditional markets, which is the US, Canada, UK. There has been effort to tap many other markets, in particular like in Europe, for some time. And I figure that since we have been having a low activity period since last year, where are we in terms of when we come back out, so to speak? We come back out not just stronger, but if stronger means broader base, more markets in it. Where are we in those markets that we have been pursuing, particularly in Europe and elsewhere? I know I saw in the media some ventures even in Africa for charters and so forth. But where are we in terms of those new destinations, or new, so you call the place that they come from, markets, sorry, thanks, that can add to what we do? If you could just give us, give me a short sense of where we are in that regard. And of course, the mention about whether the PS is actually, in their kindness to you, come across in a material way.
Thanks. Let me just clear the issue of resources. We can always do with more resources. We are marketers. There's there's a million things to do, and there's always need to do them more, harder,
I just interject.
deeper,
I particularly
wider.
inject that because with low activity, we make fun of your minister here because we see him more often than we used to see him. He's not traveling. So I know that the budget for traveling would be diverted to other things in the ministry, with the budget remaining basically where it was. It was against that background I particularly was pointing to your PS.
Like I said, I maintain the support of the ministry and the PS has been stout, to say the least. And as lead of the organization, my job is to ensure that the resources that we have, that we use them judiciously, we use them wisely, and we find creative ways to make them go further always. That's my mandate. That's my job as leader of the organization, whether I'm in private sector or the public sector, and that's what we do. But like I said before, there's always opportunities for more funding, and where we've needed more funding on different projects, we have asked, and in some instances we have gotten, or maybe not gotten all of what we wanted, but we certainly get the support that we need to certainly initiate some of the things that additionally that we want to do. You asked about new markets. Europe is not a new market for us beyond the UK. We actually have an office in Germany, in Berlin, and we have a team there that works right across the rest of Europe outside of the UK. They have been, again, like the team in the US or the team in Canada, working nonstop, even during lockdowns. We have representative agencies that work along with that team across the various jurisdictions, through language barriers and all the various things that we have to deal with in terms of getting our messages across. As of right now, we have a significant amount of air support commitments for the winter of 21-22. We have new services that will be flying out of Switzerland. We have services returning from Frankfurt for both Condor and Eurowings. We have services flying direct out of Amsterdam and Belgium for the winter. And we are actually now in a negotiation and a broader discussion with another airline, a major airline, which I'm not able to disclose because the negotiations are very early. But that would see us potentially adding possibly 3 to 4 additional European gateways next year and onwards to Jamaica with direct flights. What also will help us to grow the European market is the fact that our partners, Virgin Atlantic, has moved their gateway to Jamaica to Heathrow. And Heathrow, as you know, is the central connecting point across Europe. Everybody flies into Heathrow. It makes connections easier. It makes our ability to market the destination or getting to the destination far more functionable for the traveler, not having to go through Gatwick where they have to grab the bags and bus it along the road back to Heathrow. So that was just complicated, and most people just wouldn't do it. They're moving from Gatwick to Heathrow. In fact, they've already done so since November of last year, before the lockdowns happened again in December. So that is already cemented and is in place. In fact, our marketing teams in the rest of Europe have already designed flight plans for the different markets to allow them to connect over Heathrow.
The move, I know Virgin does operate out of both.
They do,
Gatwick,
but not to Jamaica. They were
only
operating.
That's what I was asking.
Correct.
It's not in addition to. It is
no,
not Gatwick, but
it's
no
not,
Heathrow.
They moved their services from Gatwick to Montego Bay to Heathrow to Montego Bay as of November of last year, which is a very positive move for Jamaica. In fact, in addition to Virgin adding Heathrow, Montego Bay, BA also added Gatwick to Montego Bay, which they didn't do before. They were doing Gatwick to Kingston. So they also added Gatwick to Montego Bay. So from a European standpoint, we have begun the process of rebuilding that capacity and truly, deepening our presence in all the various markets across Europe to have a greater influence. Because they're a longer traveler, they stay longer, they spend more, and they vacation pretty much across the space. They're not just looking for the large expanse of resource, but they're also looking for the smaller, more boutique, bespoke kind of holidays. So we understand the marketplace and the various types of traveler from that perspective, and we tap into it that way. Prior to COVID, as you may recall, we had focused our new growth on the South and Latin American markets, as well as Asia through India and Japan. We have representation agencies in both India and Japan. Both markets have been troubled with COVID, and so there's not a lot of opportunity to activate now, even though both markets actively participated in our virtual JPEX last year, bringing, I think, as much as 100 travel agents, media, and tour operator partners to JPEX last year in September. So we're looking to continue in those developments. We started new services out of Peru to support South America in 2018, 2019. And those we expect to return once those markets begin to operate or function again. We have no timeline on that at this point in time, but we still have our teams in the region actively continue to engage with the trade. So we're always in the publications, we're always having webinars with the agents, with the tour operators, with the airlines. And as I say, our protocols have been almost the benchmark, if you will, for DMOs across the world in terms of when you're looking for a complete set of travel protocols or destination protocols that make you feel safe, secure, and provide a seamless opportunity to move around in what we have created as our own tourism bubble with the resilient corridors. We've put ourselves in a really strong position to not only rebound, but to probably rebound faster than we had thought we would.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair.
Who else before you go? Anybody else? Okay.
Okay, I have 3 questions. I'm just going to ask at once and then give you the opportunity to respond. I can appreciate MOT's initiative to secure new markets and to rebound in some of our old markets as a response to the COVID pandemic. But what I have come to realize is that the vaccine administration process varies throughout these markets. And I want to know what is the status of our vaccine administration locally within the sector. That's the first question. The second one is in relation to the monies that would have been earmarked for the CARE program last year. I would love to know whether or not the monies have been fully disbursed to the entities, and also whether we're satisfied that our tourism workers actually benefited from these funds. And the third question is, do you have any other buzzworthy activities on the horizon that you can mention now that may further highlight our destination?
We'll ask the Director to respond to the 2 main questions they asked that are relevant to us. But the CARE program, as you know, and the BEST program, all of that is Ministry of Finance's program, administered by them, and we don't have the final numbers on those programs. So whereas our sector participated, we don't have final numbers on the amount of persons and the extent of the benefits.
Just to follow up on that question, Because, well, from my standpoint, we've been getting a lot of complaints. Well, from last year, a lot of complaints where some of the tourism workers within these entities, did not benefit from it, and so they wanted an ability to benefit from the CURE program in another way, which would have prevented them. So I'm not sure if the Ministry of Tourism itself would have received some of these questions and concerns.
We would have had questions and concerns over time, and in fact, we assisted with the tourism sector as well as with the Ministry of Finance and with Exim Bank, who had responsibility of administering the program in the end. But so we did that. So we field many questions, we responded with code, we passed the questions on, we shared information, we assisted, but we were not directly in charge of the payouts initially. So we don't have the data to say, yes, 20%, 50%, 100%. We can't give that information. We don't have it. But we certainly collaborated, and we certainly assisted, and were middlemen in many ways, trying to get information to and from between the sector and the Ministry of Finance and our Exim Bank.
Is it possible for the ministry to try to obtain those figures, those numbers, so we can have an understanding as to how the administration went?
We can
for the tourism sector?
We certainly can request. We can request the numbers. In the same way, we're trying. I don't think the Ministry of Health either has final numbers on the number of tourism worker take up for the vaccine. In fact, I asked a question recently, and they didn't have a final number as yet. They're still collating and tabulating the response from the tourism sector. So unfortunately.
So GHTA, nobody knows what's going on within their
we know a number of persons took it, but we don't have a final number. We know that there was I think that a 30% they were aiming for in the first round. And the Ministry of Health said they could not say exactly how many took the number up. At the time I asked the question, they were still working out their final details. So I don't like to give preliminary numbers. I like to know that what I'm saying is true and accurate. So I request a number on both the vaccination response to take up for tourism workers and the amount of persons who benefited from the various financial support programs.
Right.
And I will submit same to
Yes, I hope that it can be appreciated why I'm asking in relation to the vaccination process, because we're aggressively pushing now to open up.
I certainly do. And I agree with you. We want to know as well. Yeah.
But, Madam Pierce, I find it a little difficult to, I mean, the answer is the answer that you have, but to how critical the vaccination process to the recovery of the industry itself, because, I mean, we see it where there are countries that are asking for PCR tests to even visit, like Bahamas, and those who would have been fully vaccinated are the ones who would recover much faster, because that's where persons would feel safer in visiting. That I thought that data itself, right, would be more critical to the ministry itself and JTB in how it is that we market the country also. Because I would see visitors going to countries that have a higher vaccination rate than those that have a lower vaccination rate. And, we like to, as politicians, we like to make announcements. So when we were doing the Blitz, we say X amount of persons vaccinated, but for the recovery of the tourism sector, and to say that the Ministry of Tourism is still tabulating how many individuals, I'm sure that the hotels themselves can give us that data, because everybody who is vaccinated gets a card. And it would be in their best interest also to know which member of their staff has been vaccinated from which has not been. Because I would imagine, as I said before, that it would be a part of our whole marketing strategy, and that we are X amount down the road in getting it. So
and Chairman, I agree with you fully. Yeah. I agree with you fully. But after the last vaccination blitz, we did ask for numbers, and the Ministry of Health said they were still computing, and they would provide us numbers as soon as they have it.
And when was that asked of the Ministry of Health?
That was That would have been a week or so ago.
But it's unacceptable, though. I mean,
it would have been, actually, it would have been not this Tuesday, it would have been last week Tuesday.
Because there was a push for tourism workers in it.
And a number of them came out. But I think
I would imagine so.
30-something%.
Yeah.
We have 170,000 direct tourism workers, direct employed in the sector. They were aiming for 30, I think it was like 33%. And so we're trying to find out the actual number of persons who responded. So that is what they're computing, and I will follow up on that and provide information.
And the issue...
regarding tourism grants,
yes,
the last count we saw was about 200 entities that were actually approved for benefit.
200?
200 entities, yes.
And
again, we'll ask for a final report as to the actual dollar value.
And why I brought it up back is because, as a member alluded, we have been hearing of complaints of persons applying, not being able to, they're waiting on another set of disbursement and things. And it affects workers in different ways, or those who are not working. So when persons feel shafted, this is some getting and some not getting, it will affect even the worker turnout in the industry itself. So aside, for me, the ministry, it is critical that the ministry also stays on top of this, because in a sense it doesn't affect the Ministry of Finance, it affects the Ministry of Tourism and its numbers.
We're very Chairman. Yeah? That is why I was trying to get information, because I wanted to be able to share the information. But we will follow up, as I said, member, and provide the information as soon as we get it.
So in your report here, you listed the various grants, the set cash, the best cash, the general grant for the transport sector. If we can get a report on those from your ministry, not from the Ministry of Finance, in the distribution of it to the sector itself.
Will do, Chairman.
And just give us something that on the effect that it has had on the industry itself.
And we certainly want to know as well.
Or the lack of, yes.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. Yeah. Thank you.
In that regard, just to bring purpose to the point being raised by my colleague and yourself in regards to the exercise of the Ministry of Health, I think we, as a committee, should reach out to the Ministry of Health to respond to just what you're saying as a committee, and that will assist in our facilitatory role, because there's no way that the sector is going to achieve what it can achieve or the potential unless these doable things are done. So I think that we should draft as a committee a request on the Ministry of Health to respond accordingly, in addition to what they will do.
Accepted. Yeah, Member Silvers. Or you had, hold on, because I think you had one last question. Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, Member Silvers.
That's okay. The question relates to buzz activity. Early in our planning to come out of the lockdowns last year, working with our minister, the tourist board, and our agency advisors, we did some research and begun to understood what people were going to be looking for and expecting when they start traveling again. And that's how Minister coined the phrase Gen Z traveler, which is Generation COVID traveler. And really what it is saying is the traveler post-COVID is going to be wanting to have certain assurances or certain expectations about health and safety for themselves as well as their families. And out of that, what we did as a marketing team is to create an acronym called CARES, and before it you put Jamaica, which is Jamaica Cares. And what Jamaica Cares is designed to do, CARES being the acronym, which really means the C for COVID secure, the A for authentic, the S for resilient, the E for engage, and the S for seamless. And what we have tried to do and continue to do is to create that communication and messaging as a platform across the world in our PR, in our message boards, in all of our communication to the trade, to provide that level of assurance and certainly the level of communication. It is not yet 100% to where we want to be in terms of all the things we want to be able to say, but we are continuing to evolve what Jamaica Care is. We are presently also in the marketplace examining another element of Jamaica Cares, which is the potential health insurance and logistics program that will complement the Jamaica Cares program for travelers to Jamaica. Again, allowing them to have that level of peace of mind and security, knowing that they're going to a destination, that if they get sick, they can have care. If they have to be repatriated in an emergency, that is taken care of within the coverage, to provide that level of understanding to the marketplace that we are thought leaders in this space, one, but more importantly, we understand because we listen to what travelers tell us and what the trade tells us travelers are saying, so that we can make plans that meet their expectation.
Member Sibley's.
Thank you, Chair. I remember Hamilton had asked one of the questions that I wanted to ask, which was with regards to tourism workers and their getting the vaccine. So my follow-up question to that, which is in terms of the vaccine resistance, do you have a sense of what level it is within the tourism sector as it relates to workers? Do you have a sense of what that is?
Percentage-wise, I can't say, because it's an ongoing exercise between employers and employees. What I do know is, having spoken to the head of the GHTA, which we have our weekly briefings, there is a continued conversation between the operators and the partners within the destination and their staff about the business of being vaccinated. And there is an improvement in terms of where there were, I suppose, anti-vax kind of sentiment. There's a softening of that position generally. But to say that it's 20% or 30% or 60%, I would be giving you an inaccurate assessment if I did that.
So the follow-up to that is, in your own opinion, I mean, anybody can answer this question really, is how comfortable you are going through the sector and having this discussion last year vis-a-vis currently with regards to the vaccine rollout. Are you getting much improvement in terms of the anti-vacciners?
That's the point I was making just now, that there's an improved sentiment certainly amongst the workers, that the next phase or the next opportunity that vaccines become available for them to participate, there's a level of anticipation for when that will be, and that there will be even greater participation going forward.
Sure. Just to pick up on that point, countries like the US, for example, we are seeing where the anti-vax sentiment is substantial, where the vaccination rate is significantly declining in recent times. In some places around the world, one of the things that they do is to have initiatives to induce or encourage people to get vaccinated. Concerts, giveaways, all sorts of different hype activities to induce interest in the vaccination. Since the vaccination is a critical element to the reopening and the resurgence of the industry, is the tour not so much, well, you and the PS, is there any efforts being made on your part as a catalyst to get the stakeholders, like the hotel operators and so forth, to give incentives to induce the hotel workers to come on board towards greater reduction in the anti-vax sentiments that you make reference to that is declining? Because quite frankly, we don't want some of these things to happen on their own volition or on their own rate. We must be a catalyst to accelerate things happening in the way that can be beneficial to the industry and by extension to Jamaica. So I would really want to know that the Tourist Board, the Ministry of Tourism, is playing a proactive role in that regard. The Minister of Health have made mention of things that they are doing, but I think there must be some sectorial initiative, in this instance the tourism sector, given how vital it is to give in the kind of confidence that you mentioned of that you want to convey to travelers coming into Jamaica, that is a safe place to visit.
If I could proffer a response, member. What I'm acutely aware of is I know that the Ministry of Health is continually doing public education campaign and doing a number of reach outs, whether digitally or physically or through other traditional media, to the wider population, which includes the tourism sector and tourism workers. To support that, the GHTA, who are partners in the industry and really the private sector of the industry who employ these tourism workers for the most part, are also very active in their own individual spaces. On a very regular basis, I am advised, encouraging their staff to take heed to the public education campaign, provide information, provide seminars, workshops, to educate them and to continually provide information. The TEF is now doing a whole, through the Tourism Linkages Network, a whole knowledge series of forums online to, among other things, bring sensitization to the vaccine and to the need for the nation to understand more about the vaccine, how it works, and to dispel and diffuse some of the myth and some of the misinformation that is in the public space. So we are doing doing certainly our role in terms of providing information forums and to provide engagement opportunities to ensure that the information is supported with the Ministry of Health.
With the TEF role, because to repeat a point I made earlier on, Mr. White, I believe that the sector must take charge of these things happening in its sector, because of how vital it is to the growth of the industry. Even the GHTA, you must be the one pushing them, playing that catalytic role, because the truth be told, some entities left on their own do the least, right? And what they do is not only of importance to them, it's important to the country as a whole. We want more vibrance in the tourism industry because, as the PS reported earlier on, how important it is to the national economy, how important it is to employment, how important it is to the farmers, how important to all the others who are connected in the sector. It is because of those compelling reasons why you as a sector leader must be out there driving these stakeholder groups to do what we think they ought to do so that the sector can grow, can rebound at a much faster rate. So I don't want to hear they are doing that, but I want to know what you are doing. When I say you, not specifically you, but the various, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. As I said, I've been trying to get from Ministry of Health some specific numbers on the tourism response to the vaccination program. In fact, my colleague Pierce just sent me a note to say that to date, 5,759 tourism workers have been vaccinated. 5,759 tourism workers. And I told there's 170,000 direct. 170,000 persons directly employed in tourism sector.
170,000 direct workers.
Yes.
And to date, the Ministry of Health can confirm that there are only 5,759 direct workers that would have been vaccinated.
Yes, yes. And to note that there has been a lot of interest from the workers themselves to be vaccinated. So, as Director mentioned, there's ongoing sensitization, and we expect greater take-up when it's available. Because remember, availability is also a challenge.
Yeah,
remember that.
It's really the availability that
so is. So it's with availability. But the interest is there for enough tourism workers. And so once vaccines are available, we expect to have good take-up from them.
Well,
some persons are just concerned that they need it
to
ensure
we understand
their
that.
jobs, you know. So persons,
I mean,
there is interest in the sector.
One second. Part of the challenge, I mean, that we face, I said, we're not a standalone destination. There's competition within the region who has a higher take-up than we have now. And as I say, I saw a news item of Floridians leaving Florida to the Bahamas because they have a more relaxed protocol now because of the take-up rate within the Bahamas and within that southern U.S. Area. So and it is not a fault of the industry itself, because once there's not supplies, then there's the likeliness of the higher take-up rate is challenged by not having the supplies. And it is just something that we face, not just as an industry, but just as a country. That industry itself is critical to the growth numbers. This is something that has to be taken up at a different level.
Chair, I just want to put the numbers into context, because remember, 170,000 direct workers within the tourism industry. However, not all 170 are currently engaged. So we do have quite a few that are still laid off. And outside of that, we do have some that are part-time. So these numbers can't just be taken.
As a standalone, and that's understandable. How many do we have in the industry now to get engaged? That's engaged in this currently, just roughly.
About 50% are engaged now, are back on the job now. 50% approximately.
50% of this 170?
Yes.
That's engaged in the industry now?
Yes, Chairman.
Sorry, but they're getting paid at lower salaries and reduced hours. Everybody's not back on their full scale, but they're still engaged to some extent.
So to date, you have about 80,000 engaged in the industry, working full-time now, or at reduced hours, but have a job, a daily job that they can go to. And
it's from the GHTA.
And so there's still concern of the load of that numbers. All right, Member Sibley's.
Madam PS, I take it that the Ministry of Tourism has a place around the table as it relates to the COVID vaccination effort. Are you a part of a committee with the Ministry of Health as it relates to it, to the COVID vaccination? And if not, PS, I am recommending, because it's just not too...
We have ongoing working relationships, sir. Whatever we do, we have to work with the Ministry of Health. So there have been many, many, many engagements ongoing. So we are familiar with what is going on. We are consulted. We have meetings. We communicate. We work together. So we're pretty much aware of what is happening.
Yeah.
Member Hamilton.
Yeah, I just have one last question in relation to Milk River. What are the plans for that entity?
For Milk River?
Yes.
Okay. We are in the process of a public-private partnership arrangement for Milk River and Bath Fountain in St. Thomas. Yes. I think we're in year 3 of this time. We're a few years in the process. But I tell you what happened. It is not a simple and straightforward matter, right? Because both Bath and Milk River both have their own piece of legislation with certain clauses that you have to respect and uphold. Moreover, where they're located, and we have gone through the divestment process a number of times already, unsuccessfully. Effort, unsuccessfully. We have been through, in fact, I've been through the full process at one point, and at the end of the day, the successful bidder wasn't able to take it up because of the infrastructural challenges. Because remember, the Bath is remote, it's all the way up in St. Thomas. Right now, I've been struggling to get the road fixed. The road is in a bad way. There are problems with telephone connectivity and all kinds of things. Milk River has problems with flooding. And as a part of the PPP, we're asked to do a number of technical studies. So we did a heritage study, we're doing water retention studies, flood mitigation, all kinds of technical work is necessary as a part of the divestment process. So it is taking quite a bit of time and quite a bit of money. But we are working assiduously. Process is slow, though, because you have to complete all these studies before you can prepare the document to take it to market. So we are doing it. Please be patient, but it is work in progress.
Madam Pierce, he's asking me to be kind to you. I'm always kind to you. Tell him for me, please, Pierce.
Yes, you're always kind to me.
Yes.
And you will be in this moment as well.
Yes, and always. My smile, Madam Pierce, was not laughing at you. But as I said, I've heard many initiatives across administrations, right, for both Bath and Milk River. I'm of the opinion that the request for a proposal should probably be something like that, where it says, give me a good proposal that can benefit the local economy, where they are located, Jamaicans and foreigners, and I give you for free, right? Something like that. I would love to see them develop, because the asset is so useful,
yes,
but substantially underutilized. Yeah. And I don't know what it is, why any of the hotel operators or so can't come up with something. Because every year they get, because I have been through many permutations where you learn that you need so much more money to bring the infrastructure up to standard, yeah, to get it to divestment stage. Yeah. That never happened. And the longer it gets worse and demand more money, and it's like a vicious cycle we're going through, and we're not getting closer and closer. So I just give it that off the cuff suggestion regarding the request for proposal. Something to make it very nice and attractive.
The unfortunate thing is that
it's
the divestment process.
So long as the local economy and the tourism industry can benefit, fine.
To add to that, Madam Pierce, because I mean, when the member laughed when we spoke about how many times.
Yeah.
Because I remember as a child or a younger man in the 80s, I remember my mother having negotiations with JTA, the ministry itself in the divestment or just to lease the property itself. And I remember going up there, just a drive out with my wife about a year ago. And my mother, now deceased person, still remember, because it was a favorite place of hers. And each time we hear about a divestment for both, we hear about the legislative
which we're amending it now.
Obstacles. Why can't those be adjusted to facilitate and for me it's not an asset to sell, but at least an asset that can be on a long-term lease, that can be developed, and the areas around it has to be developed with it. Because if you try to drive to Milk River right now, I mean, you turn back halfway. The roadway itself, I mean, the baths in Bath, and the gardens in Bath, is used to be a place where we used to leave Kingston to drive to just to see.
Well,
so, and it comes back down to TF and TPD, mainly TF. I mean, we tend to establish the product itself as a standalone, but then the surroundings around it doesn't draw you to it. So, I mean, you have to have security at the gate now at Bath. Otherwise, I'm take you away and carry you down to the spring itself, which is a deterrent.
Very good point. Very good point, Mr. Chair, if I might just add. Very good point. I am from the South Coast, and I can tell you one of the greatest challenges that you have with Milk River is to get there.
Yes.
And there's a road that leads from
Alligator Pond
to Milk River. I remember when I was a child, Milk River was one of the hot spots in Jamaica.
Yes.
Because at least then you could use that road. It is now impassable. And those are some of the, when you speak about the surrounding area, those are some of the conditions that we have to improve.
It is. And I mean, it comes as a package.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to carry me to Milk River now to ask me to lease that property, if I can't fly, then I might not reach. Yeah. No, it's a serious thing. So, everything ties into. But why, the question really that I want to ask, why then, if we realize that there are some hindrances with the legislative framework, why haven't we then changed it to make it much easier for us to dispose of the assets?
Okay, let me respond, Chair. And all the points made are valid points. One, we are actually now just fine-tuning the amendments to go to CPC, Chief Parliamentary Council, because we are in the process of amending both legislation to allow for easier transition to private operations. And it's on our agenda for this year and is well on its way. In fact, we have the draft submission, the changes and everything. We just need to sign off from CPC and AG for it to go back to cabinet. So we're well on our way with that. We have.
Is that holding up the negotiations for
the
divestment?
No. It's a requirement. It's a requirement.
It's a requirement
yes.
in the negotiations that you have been in for 3 years.
Yeah. Well, we have been in a position where we can allow. Because remember, Bath Fountain is vested in a corporation over our members of the board.
I understand.
Milk River has a management arrangement, the access, so they're both heritage sites. And so you can't just do as you wish. In fact, one school of thought is to divest them as brown fields. right? But there's some hesitation from National Heritage Trust. What are the heritage value,
no, I am
intrinsic
total
value?
Agreement. There's too much history
and we're going
involved.
through, and we're going through all of that.
Yeah.
We have a plan for Bath for the parish of St. Thomas, the St. Thomas Management Development Plan. And in that plan, we see the town of Bath as a major opportunity for development, including the Bath Fountain. And the gardens, the history of the gardens is fantastic, fantastic. The variety of plants that came to that garden first is amazing. And so we have in our St. Thomas plan, which we shared in Parliament, a proposal for one project to be the development of Bath Town as a heritage town with all of the things tied in the garden, the various botanical aspects of it, the Bath Fountain, and all of that. So that is one of our projects in the Blue Ocean strategy that we're trying to drive. If it comes to fruition, you'd be amazed.
No, but Madam
The beaches in Bath, St. Thomas, St. Thomas, the parish of St. Thomas, the beaches are to die for. They have wonderful beachfronts there for any kind of tourism
But just down the road from Milk River, Farquhar Beach.
Exactly.
Yes.
So there's great potential development for both sides, a lot of development potential, but you have to get the fundamentals right. People have to be able to get there. Yes, sir?
No,
Thank you. We need our prayers, but trust me, we are pushing for it, and we're not easy.
Madam Pierce,
Yes,
and why I sound so passionate about it is that we have so much history here.
Exactly.
Yeah?
Exactly.
And we start and stop as developing them as sites.
Yeah.
Because we have a local
Clientele.
tourism sector, tourists too.
Yes.
Look at how many of our locals now visiting the hotels.
Yeah.
And I mean, I use the location in my constituency, Adams Valley, where we, with the help of the Ministry of Tourism, we did the museum.
Right.
But we haven't had any more engagement, Mr. Edwards, in sort of helping us to get it to a point of, we had what we call the Mile Gully Tourism Loop, where we tried to use the Moravian churches in the constituency. Yes. You have Bethany Church, which is one of the first organs that came into Jamaica. Yeah, which we have been trying to get as a heritage site. The first place that Irish potato came to Jamaica. You know, so we have a lot of history here in Jamaica. I mean, St. Thomas, the Bath Fountains. I'm sure. No, we have worked on these projects, you know.
And we have
we
all
have
documented,
worked.
you know.
But the point I'm making is that we start on a high this financial year. Next year, the priority is something different, so it gets left behind. And then there are different priorities, but there's no continuity
Chairman,
in projects like that.
we are well on our way up to the time of election, and we have to start some things over. You have to go back to cabinet a number of things, and that's what we're doing now, right? We are passionate, we're committed, and we're doing the work. You hear Director White spoke about it, Gen Z, the new tourism, the new tourism clientele that we're talking about post-COVID. People want different kinds of experiences. People want safety, people want nature, people want heritage, we want to be able to get out there, and that's part of what we're trying to do. So many persons from Member Hamilton constituency have never gone to St. Elizabeth. Exactly. So we have this Blue Ocean strategy, which Minister spoke about in the sectoral presentation, and a part of it is about developing those things in Jamaica that differentiates us and gives us the comparative advantage. And all these projects we're talking about are part of that. And so it is a part of what will be involved in our new tourism strategy going forward. And so we are committed. We are passionate. Let me tell you something. You're the passion inside this room about Milk River and Bath. Every discussion at any level to anybody is the same kind of passion. People feel a sense of ownership. It's our patrimony. It's ours. It belongs to the people. And so you get a lot
it's better late than never,
response.
But I'm happy that we're moving towards.
So the work continues. The work continues. We are right now doing socio-economic study for Bath St. Thomas. We're trying to get the profile of people who are there. What are their skills? How do we engage them? How do we include them? Including the persons on the sellers who sell the,
on the roadside.
On the side.
Yeah.
So the work is happening, and we're tourism, and we're resilient. We don't lose heart. We don't lose heart. And we're pushing these projects with everything we have.
All right.
But We'd like the roads to be fixed, so we'll take any help for the roads to be
Emma
fixed.
Clark?
We're looking forward to the legislation coming from Milk River.
No, definitely. Emma Clark.
We're looking forward to the legislation, the amendments coming to Parliament, for sure.
Yes, you'll see that shortly.
Emma Clark.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I realize that by virtue of having a comfortable and satisfying discussion, that you have moved along away from the statement I wanted to make. But I'll just come back to it just for addition, that Madam Pierce, and to us all, that looking at those sites that we were speaking of, those that are could be profitable and need to be divested, as the case is, we have to bear in mind that the white elephant, or that elephant within the room, so to speak, is always a security aspect. So when you take a Roaring River, which has a lovely site, Dr. Wallace knows very well. When you look at Bath, which has been around for moons, I've never been to Milk River, but I can tell you not only that the roadway is fixed, you can fix the roadway at a fixed cost, but the security aspect of those who we want to use the facility is ongoing. You never can pay enough security. You never can fix a security pricing, and that has to be taken into consideration. How are we going to address the security aspect of these entities to make it viable?
Yes, sir. In fact, all of our nature heritage tourism, as long as they're out there in the communities, there's a potential risk. Thankfully, so far, we have not had any incident of notice reported either Bath nor Milk River, and we hope it remains that way. But I'm going to ask Mr. Edwards to speak of our destination assurance strategy that we're working on as well. That will deal with, among the other things, security of our tourism plant. So, Mr. Edwards, can you say a little bit on that?
Thank you, PS. So, when it comes to security, TPDCO works closely with the Ministry of National Security. We have at TPDCO, as some members would be aware, a visitor safety unit. And under that, we have our DCs, which are largely distributed throughout the tourism space. Of course, the numbers are not enough, but we see significant impact wherever they're deployed. They have also helped us with the surveillance as it relates to COVID-19, because TPDCO, as you're all aware, has been doing announced and unannounced spot checks throughout the industry. The DCs help us with that as well, in conjunction with our staff. But in terms of the wider security effort, it is something that we are always monitoring, always engaging stakeholders with to ensure that wherever we see gaps, that we fill them quickly. Yes.
I want to just ask, 2 weeks ago we lifted our own travel restrictions on the UK, but then immediately there was a travel advisory out of the UK where Jamaica is concerned. How will that now, or what is the effect of that now since we have been locked off from any tourist arrivals from the UK since the start of the pandemic? How is that travel advisory now going to affect the numbers that you would have been expecting out of travel out of the UK?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We've not been locked out, and it's important to start there. The UK has instituted what they call a traffic light system, red, amber, and green, to determine how they treat with re-entry into the UK. So countries that are listed under the green are countries that they deem very low risk, and persons who travel to those countries, when they return to the UK, are not required to quarantine. But they're required to re-enter with a test, but do not have to quarantine. Countries on the amber, which includes Jamaica, and by the way, all of the Caribbean countries, they recommend that you don't travel to those countries. But if you do travel, when you're coming back, you need to have a COVID test, plus you need to quarantine, or you have the option to test out of quarantine within a 7-day period. And countries on red, those are the countries they will not allow international travel to. So where we are, international travel is allowed, but with restrictions on re-entry as it relates to quarantine. That from a marketing perspective, obviously, is not the ideal. We want to be green. There are discussions happening with that country through the embassy here, engaged with our minister and other persons. There is constant consideration happening as to what review processes will happen in relation to a movement from amber to green. There is commitment from British Airways and Virgin to start their service as planned for May 17th and 18th, if I'm remembering correctly. TUI, we learned this only this morning. You see me on my phone, that's actually what I'm looking at. Has shifted their restart to June, first week of June from May.
Who shifted?
TUI.
Okay.
TUI flight. And that's an ongoing discussion as well.
How many seats?
TUI for the summer would have been somewhere in the order of about 6,000 seats if they started in May. So they're going to shift out about 2 weeks, is what they're proposing as of now. Instead of starting the week of May 17th to the week of June 7th. So it's not a cancellation, it's a shift. So it's important to sometimes to elaborate these things so that there's a proper understanding of context and purpose. So it's not that we have been locked off from UK travelers. It's just that the traveler now has a greater consideration to make whether or not they want to travel to have to quarantine when they come back, or they're willing to test out of quarantine when they return. So it becomes a conversation between the traveler and the travel advisor in terms of, and that's where our engagement happens in between the two.
But it must affect your numbers coming in, being that, I mean, even for us as Jamaicans that have to quarantine for 2 weeks, when you come in, that it's not everybody can get,
it probably will
get an
have
additional
some
2 weeks from work to quarantine. So looking at your pre-booking to since the advisory, your numbers when the flights start, you haven't seen
We haven't seen that, and I'm actually speaking to our team in the UK as we speak. And the demand hasn't shifted as of right now. Maybe the fortuitous thing is that for the UK traveler, they're heading into summer holidays, and that's when the majority of UK travelers come to Jamaica during the summer for 2-week vacations or 2-week holidays with the whole family. And so and most of those people would be also working from home as well. So there may be some level of, I suppose, bridging, if you will, of the decision as to whether to go or not to go, because you're coming for a longer period and you may have the opportunity to stay at home for the 7 days anyways because you're working from home. So there are lots of opportunities in the middle, which is why I'm saying this is where we sit between the travel advisor and the traveler to ensure that the information that they have is readily available.
And it would be the same coming from the UK of at least an antigen test to board the flight.
Correct.
But
all viral, any kind of viral testing.
All right. Now that the UK variant is a concern. and those tourists that comes into the country, once they get onto the elegant corridor, have a little more flexibility than us who come home and have to quarantine for the 2 weeks. Is there any additional testing that will be done from those coming from the UK just to ensure that there isn't any carriers? Because we know we can take the test before boarding the flight, and a day or two after, there is...
Remember, Mr. Chairman, that all travelers to Jamaica are required to do a COVID test before boarding their flight.
Antigen test to board the flight.
Exactly.
Rapid test.
Yes.
So I'm saying that since the UK variant, and they're coming from the UK, and we have seen signs of it here in Jamaica, is there another layer of testing that will be done for flights coming in from the UK to Jamaica?
Not that I'm aware of, and we're advised, these decisions are not entirely that of tourism. It involves the Ministry of Health and guidance from the Ministry of Health, who remain and have remained on the cutting edge of understanding the information and helping us to act accordingly. So we're guided by that.
But there hasn't been no discussion between yourself and the Ministry of Health?
Not that I'm aware of. There hasn't been any alarm raised in that regard.
All right. Thank you. Member.
2 questions. One, I want to pick up back on the vaccination thing. Is there any consideration being given to the hotel operators themselves accessing vaccines for their workers? Because word is that makers like Moderna and PBCJ are looking at direct purchases of vaccines for persons who maybe can afford it and where it can be accessed. I know primarily it's on a country government basis, but that is not exclusively so. In the past recent weeks, and at a fast rate, with the anti-vax sentiments in some jurisdiction, hence the reduced demand and vaccine, more vaccines are become available for purchase. So my question is any consideration being given to induce, and again, the more proactive role by the sector leaders, the tourism ministry, in getting our stakeholders to give consideration to this as a means of expediting, of accelerating vaccination within the sector? Because again, as I said before, I believe that each sector must play some leadership role, though the Ministry of Health has the overarching responsibility in driving the vaccination. That's my first, and this last one I want to ask. I think this is more for Mr. Edwards. In your beach development program, could you just make some comments about where that is? And I must, Mr. Dr. Wallace, my favorite agent, said, right? And I must confess while I want to see the beach thing expand globally, in Jamaica that is, I must confess some parochial interest in that regard. And not in a selfish way, because the truth is, the Elsha Beach and the Elsha area is the major beach area for the Kingston metropolitan area. So long as there is, or you promote urban tourism or in the corporate area, Elsha Beach becomes critical. Yes, there are some development works being done at Fort Clarence by the Guardsman Group, but there is the natural kind of environment at Elsha Beach, which your European tourists are more inclined to. So, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, you please give Mr. Wallace all the latitude he requires to tell us about the extensive work that will be done on Elsha Beach to help to reclaim the beach erosion and to make the beach one of the developed or to be developed beach facility for the tourism industry.
Well, thank you, and morning, everyone. I thought the opening batsman would have hit off all the scores, and I would have gone home without batting. But thanks for the question. And the good news is that, from a big picture standpoint, even with the pandemic and tourism having had that sabbatical, so to speak, what we've done at TEF is continued our infrastructural investments across Jamaica, so that at the end of the pandemic, Destination Jamaica would not just have survived. Destination Jamaica would be better off when we come out. So when you look at the Closed Harbour Beach Development Project, for instance, that we partnered with UDC, that's coming out as a brand spanking new development in our resort capital of Montego Bay. When you look at the road markings that we've done on the North Coast, I'm sure some of you would have driven at nights and seen all the cat's eyes and how well that has uplifted that corridor. We've also invested heavily in the human resource development during this sabbatical. So, because we've had our JCTI training and certification programs, but while tourism was in full bloom, a lot of the workers didn't have the time to actually do the courses to get certified and so on. With a lot of them not being at work or not being at work full time, it was an opportunity for us to actually do these training and certifications online. And we did almost 6,000 persons that we've done, 11 courses that we've run during the sabbatical, so to speak. So we are coming out of the pandemic with a tourism worker in Jamaica that's better off, more skilled, more certified, coming out of the pandemic. So not only will our infrastructure be better coming out, our human resource be better coming out of this pandemic. So Destination Jamaica, Donovan can boast profusely about how we are better than our competition coming out of the pandemic. The other thing that we've done as well is we've ensured that the sector, because tourism is, as our minister says, the series of moving parts. And we've been increasing those moving parts, so to speak, because of our linkages programs, making sure our farmers are supplying the sector more and more. So we had a lot of growth in that linkage area right up to COVID. And so as a result, tourism getting hit would mean those farmers would get hit, those manufacturers would get hit. And one of the things that we did is we ensured that we invested to keep them, to mitigate the adverse effect, to keep them surviving, so that when we reopened for tourism, we still had them all together, still had the linkages together. So when their crops were rotting in the field, for instance, we went in and we purchased those crops and we put together care packages and food packages that we distributed to the tourism workers who were disenfranchised in the resort towns. Now, we continue to build those linkages by having the speed networking programs, the Christmas in July. Most of those festivals and so on that we did a digital version to keep the links there. Even when you mentioned the Milk River and so on, we are still advancing with our health and wellness network by having these training and these development of the wellness sector, creating digital assets, for instance, wellnessinjamaica.com, to build out what I would say sub-industries within tourism. So yes, the main one is on sea and sand, but our linkages network is designed to build out the other subsectors, entertainment, to build out sports, to build out health and wellness, to build out knowledge, to all these other attributes that we have here in Jamaica that can pull tourists. So even if we get 3.5 million that comes for sun, sea, and sand, we'll get another 1 million that comes for health and wellness, and get another 1 million that comes for entertainment. And that's the whole approach that we have while we are continuing to develop, even despite the pandemic, to roll out digital versions of the Christmas in July, the Blue Mountain Coffee Festival, for instance, to build those, develop those subsectors of tourism. One of the things that we're doing as well is in hugging up the support sector, the farmers, the entertainers, and so on, is that we are providing them with digital training. So a lot of them who would have had their businesses being, what's the term they use, high street, you have to come in person to purchase. Since that was knocked out, the craft vendors, for instance, we have gone in and we are giving them digital media training and social media training and e-commerce training so that they can now go online. So even coming out of the pandemic, when they start getting regular business again, they will also be having another revenue center from their e-commerce platforms. Now, going specifically to the beaches program that prompted my preamble, we have developed, along with the beaches committee that includes NEPA and other agencies across ministries in government, 10 beaches that we have earmarked across Jamaica to develop in the next 3 years. Now, I'll confess that Helsha is not listed in those 10 primarily, and I'll explain quickly. Because the development of Helsha Beach requires a lot of high-level mitigation work, groins and so on, which are, I mean, just the cost of some of these things are more than TEF's entire budget. And it's something that has to be at a national level that we can...
It's beyond TEF's budget.
What I'm saying is the Helsha development to really do the corrective measures with Helsha requires groin development, which is so costly that pulling that from TEF's budget that has been reduced would be too much, would offset what we have for the rest of the tourism industry. And so, which
is way beyond what the MPs are allocated to. Okay, go ahead.
So what I'm saying is it's a consideration. I agree with you that the impact it can have on destination Kingston is a very positive one. You've seen the work that we've done in Port Royal in getting a cruise pier there. And so getting the beach being of a high standard would make the entire Kingston as a destination much more appealing. I agree with that. But what I'm saying is that it's at a national level that we need to address the health share to get allocation from the Ministry of Finance that's separate from the allocation.
Which is where I want to go, because now that we recognize it is beyond the budget of TF, and I'm always reminded, especially when I look at the deficit in revenue, right, that it no longer comes to the TF, it goes to the consolidated fund. Maybe if you had that inflow, you could have done it over a period of time. But what approach is now being taken? Because, and why I raise it is because I remember years ago, Madam PS, we had this same conversation about Negril, about that groin, losing the beach and everything, and it was a national debate. But I've been here now for 10 years, and I remember that conversation in my first term, and I'm now in my third term, and nothing has been done out in Negril. Yeah? So that Helsha doesn't end up like Negril, because we can see the damage that is being done. What's the approach now? I mean, yes, you're going to go to Ministry of Finance to ask for, but has that yet been done? Because this is not just today's problem, but it has been a long-standing issue out in Helsha.
Executive Director respond. It is raised here because it's a tourism infrastructure. So the initiative should also come from your shop in order for the stock of tourism to be on the agenda. I have raised it with your minister. I've raised it with the Prime Minister. But it all falls where it has not grown any prosperity.
Understood, and those are some heavy hitters that you've consulted, so poor me. But what I would say is that, where we are as far as that beach development is concerned is NEPA is looking at that EIA for the solution, for the groins going in and so on. So that while that process is being done, we don't want to sit on our laurels. We are saying, okay, which other beaches out there that in the meantime we can execute, we can get done and have Destination Jamaica, because as new hotels come in, we have to make sure other beaches are there for the public,
Is the one for Negril that is no longer required?
The one for Negril is not in my 10 beaches program, in the TS 10 beaches program.
It is
It's not one of the beaches. What we've done is the beaches that have been...
I'm speaking about the groin in particular.
In Negril. It's not on the... there are negotiations, I understand. The Chamber of Commerce and along with some stakeholders have had meetings with NEPA, but I think that's where it is at the moment.
And why? Because NEPA generally is not the one who's going to implement. They are really an advisory tool.
Understood, yeah. but we can't implement because the beach is such a sensitive marine asset that their go-ahead is crucial for us to progress.
I want to differ. I comport with what the chairman is saying. NEPA is only going to give technical advice
yes,
and the solutions which are being pursued. But the solutions must be pursued from elsewhere that has the responsibility for the infrastructure development. And the question is where that resides. I would expect, and that's why I've raised it with your ministry, as an entity that has a vested interest in such infrastructure. So the chairman is correct. It must come from somewhere, and that's why I really raised it here, because I believe in your shop is where it must be, as a project. It must be started. I have tried and you can enlist me as an unpaid worker for you towards getting this end. No invoice will come. Yeah, very sure.
Chair, I believe in this instance that this requires a multi-stakeholder approach.
No, it does.
I think it is unfair. I understand from my member saying that tourism should have the initiative, but tourism in and of itself is unable to resolve that issue.
Member Hamilton, let me and why it is raised, or why I'm bringing it up here, especially in Negril 1. When I sat there on the committee, it was CMTF that was driving the project itself to get the ground in, but it was a multi-agency project because they were not going to be implementing, but they were ensuring that as a part of the tourism product itself, because the beach in Negril was being eroded at a fast rate. Now, that's why I asked the question, has that erosion, has it changed? And if then, what has changed? And then was the ground really needed then or not? But it has just fell off the agenda, basically, of not hearing anything else about it, when it was really a major issue, and it was really the hoteliers who had an issue of the type of ground that was going to be installed. So that is why I'm raising it again to see if it is still an issue at all, that if it was, then has TF has any word on it? Yeah? So I'm not saying that it has to be done.
I believe we probably should ask for the development in terms of that activity. Maybe they can give us a report on it.
Well, he said it's not one of the beaches that they are.
No, not for the beach, no, but based on the activity that was taking place that you mentioned in relation to the different stakeholders that came to the table, maybe we should just get an update as to what transpired during that process.
Reasonable, yeah.
The truth being, Chairman, if I may interject, the truth is that it was never a Ministry of Tourism project, nor TEF, nor TPDCO. Mm-hmm. The project is Negril Breakwater project. Yes. It was a Government of Jamaica project, and it was a PIOJ, Government of Jamaica project. Yeah. And it was the PIOJ that was actually driving the funding, all the consultations, all discussions, and all of that. They were the executing entity. And NEPA was, of course, played a critical role in that. But remembering it was the residents, the people of Negril, who vociferously disagreed with the process. And so the funds, it was adaptation fund money. The funds were diverted. So it really, we were partners, of course. We had an interest in it, but we were never the drivers.
And I
in
think,
the same way,
yeah.
El-Shar is larger UDC. UDC is in charge of El-Shar, not tourism. So the beaches that we work on are where we're able to engage whether it's NEPA and we lease the beaches and then do development, or the municipal corporations and we develop the project and hand it back to them. But we don't really own any beaches.
Madam Pierce,
we are stakeholders with a keen tourism interest on the development of these products, and where we're able to facilitate, we're able to lease and do the development ourselves, or we do that. But understand that is not our primary responsibility. These large national development projects.
I think what the member was really alluding to is that, look, if Jamaica loses its beaches, and we really don't have much of a product to sell with the hotels, and being that you have the TF and TPDCO as part of ensuring that we have a product to be able to sell as part of the package itself, that the beach, so that if there is an erosion of a beach, which is a part of the product itself, that the ministry, whichever department or agency within the ministry, would have a vested interest in it to ensure that there's a multi-sectoral team working in ensuring that the erosion of that beach, be it PIOJ or any other agency within government. So it's not really that you have a total control over it, but have a vested interest in ensuring that it is done. So I think that is what is really being put forward. Yeah? So what is
and there has been advocacy in both those beaches that you mentioned. I honestly say with the pandemic, I guess priorities, focus shifted quite a bit. On what I can promise is that I'll pick up back and see where they are as far as just advocating for progress in those areas that you mentioned.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Jamvat or?
By private entity for the vaccine.
Oh.
Well, we know the PSOJ is actively driving that process. So yeah, and the JHTA is a part of the PSOJ. Right. So there is input from that perspective, but from the
JHTA side or from the ministry side?
The JHTA side. As a member of the PSOJ. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Remember too, even we're trying to get work on the testing sites across the country. Remember the JHTA was very, very much a part of that process, working from region to region to ensure that we had local testing sites. So the JHTA is very active in all aspects of this pandemic, responding to this pandemic, and we work with them.
All right. Yeah. Any questions for TPD or Jamvat? Members? No? All right. Well, I'm sure Mrs. Roberts is not. All right, Madam Pierce, team, let us thank you and hope that the reports that we have asked for, that in short order, but also that the continued growth in the industry is of, I'm sure all of us in here and every Jamaican would want to see us getting back to where we were prior to the last year, this time. So, but thanks again for coming to the committee.
With the rebound of the tourism sector, we see less of your minister.
He's in charge of government business, or lead of government business, so you have been seeing a lot of him. And I'm sure he's done a very good work at that, so he's done a good job. So. But thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee members. Thanks for the opportunity to discuss. We appreciate your comments, your interventions, your advice to us, and we will always continue to give up our best in the tourism sector. We work hard, we're committed, we're dedicated, and we will get a job done, and we shall build better and stronger in this post-COVID environment.
But on the
look
issue
forward
of
to that.
the issue of the vaccination of tourism workers.
Yes.
If you could give us even just an outline on the approaches that will be taken.
We will try to get information.
If it is that the GHTA is a part of the PIOJ, what amount of that would be for hotel workers, and what other discussions between the Ministry of Health to ensure that that sector is a priority sector in the vaccination process. If we can just get something from you.
We will see the information and we will submit a report to this committee. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chairman, we, in spirit of goodwill, we bought some tourism working for UMass to give to the members, if that's allowed. I'm not sure.
It has to come through the chairman and I'll decide who gets it. Thank you very much, Dr. Wallace. Members, just some housekeeping matters. A provisional schedule has been circulated by our consultant to yes.
I am just going through the proposed. There are some matters, as you know, part of our remit and practice is to facilitate resolution of issues, not only in an academic way, but ones which are more recurrent. There are two that jumps out at me, and one is the whole situation at heart. I believe that it is this committee's responsibility to engage them and to provide a forum also for the leadership of heart to elaborate, particularly when we are going back into the resuming the whole training process. So I want to posit that one for consideration.
As Minister of Education.
But perhaps even more than that, even more of an exigency is the whole Office of Disaster Preparedness. Of course, we are in one disaster already for going 2 years now, which is the COVID, and the second is the regular hurricane season that we are entering now. And the capacity, both from an administrative standpoint, administration standpoint, and also in terms of the whole allocation, public administration and appropriations committee. So the appropriations element of it, I think, is very timely. I would even put the ODPEM one ahead of their heart.
It's here at week 7, so you're suggesting to bring it.
To bring them, yes.
To bring it forward.
Yes.
No, that is his suggestion, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
And he's making a suggestions for the committee consideration.
So we can look at that next week. But we went through heart already, right? Did we? Did we, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
We did go through heart already.
Heart came here?
Not
yes.
Not recently. No. Not recently. Not in this financial year. Or
Okay,
not for
those are
this year. No, I don't think they have been on here for 2021.
Those two suggestions, Mr. Chairman, are matters that those, as I was saying, those two matters are matters that we can discuss next week. We don't have to take them this week.
No, we're going through the schedule here now.
Not going to come next week.
We're asking members, what we're looking at is a schedule, a suggested schedule, a provisional schedule. So what I'm asking members, is there any other suggestion? This is one that has been made by our advisor. So is there any other suggestion? Because even in the matters to be reviewed, members can look at it and see if these are the matters that are, is it that you want to look at the current financial year and not, matters to do with reports, right? Is there any report that you'd want to see from any of these ministries or agencies that have been suggested? If it is that you want another ministry to come to be added to this, then that's what I'm asking the members. Yes, you can adjust this. And it was circulated and asked. I think only Member Hamilton was the only one who replied to the email.
That's okay. It comes to us at a committee.
No, it was circulated. Hold on. Asking for suggestions.
Fine.
Good.
So even if we had suggested something in an email sent to us, once we come to the committee, we can ratify the situation, we can amend it, and we can change it.
Yes.
So I'm not worried about the email that was sent. What I'm worried about is the meeting that is in session now.
Yes.
I am not adversely against the suggestion made by the member. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is that here's a listing, and I'm suggesting that we take her down the road, not now. Rather than bring it now, whilst we have this suggestion in front of us, and we have been going on fine, I would say add her to the list, but not now.
Why not? And
it is my suggestion. I didn't ask you, and I didn't ask you why you want them to come now. Because we have a list in front of us that it is just, and I'm saying to you, my colleague friend, that we have a list in front of us that we are just as important to us knowing what is happening here. So I would
remember the next ministry that will come to us is most likely the Ministry of Agriculture.
Fine.
And the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, because they should have been last week and asked to be put off to further. So that will be, so they will be coming. Just be reminded, any other ministry that is going to come after needs at least 2 to 3 weeks notice, right? So what we need to at least agree on right now, after the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce and Ministry of Agriculture, which ministry, department or agency after that?
Chair, can we deal with two? Looking at when the ministries come here, the time that we take to deal with the ministry, I'm asking, is it wise to invite two ministries to come here and then we will realize that we don't have adequate amount of time and then they would have to go back? Having come here, is it productive to have a team of people on the outside while we process a different ministry here? Based on my experience since I've come here, it is usually inadequate amount of time is not available to deal with two ministries.
I appreciate the observation, but I need to remind the committee that it was this committee who also agreed that we bring both of them together. Yeah? But I appreciate the committee. I am just reminded by the clerk that our next scheduled meeting that we have on the calendar is June 2nd. That's the only other available date for another meeting of the PAAC. Yeah? So,
Chair, maybe at that time, because we would have had the Ministry of Investment as well as Agriculture, we could then decide, or what we can do is decide what comes.
I would suggest deciding that now to get the report from them so that we have the report way in advance.
I have no difficulty with the Ministry of National Security coming after that.
All right. You are saying something?
No, I was about to say, sorry, Mr. Chairman, that even though it is week 1, week 2, as stated, we already know that a schedule that we'll skip different weeks. So we have the Ministry of Industry, which we would want to have on the 2nd, which is the next available meeting for us. And the other available meeting day, we would take the Ministry of Security and Justice.
Agriculture.
No?
Sorry. No, but there are 2 in 1 there.
But the member is suggesting that we only bring one. So
we are agreeing, we are now debating whether to take the 2 or 1, right? Is that so?
All right, yeah.
My understanding, Chairman, my humble suggestion is that, and this is not new, if upon examining a ministry we find out that we need more time,
then we can ask him.
Then we can always schedule and bring them next. So that's not no rocket science.
Members,
I think the issue that we want to do, the consultant has made a proposed schedule of order. It's for us now to decide which one we want to take in what order. Yeah. No, let me just finish. All I'm humbly attempt to submit is that, yes, we have this schedule in this order by the consultant for whatever reason. I have raised some exigencies why a particular ministry should be taken as early as is possible. Yes, we schedule for Ministry of Industry and Commerce and Agriculture, and we will proceed. All I'm simply saying, because of the exigency of the subjects involved, it will be more in the country's interest, the Parliament's interest, that we take such with more exigency than another, because this was merely a scheduling recommendation, nothing more. I am only positing my opinion, of course. So that don't require reiteration that it's my opinion. It is, and it has been from I started.
So now that you have made your opinion, no to the rest. Our opinion, or my opinion, is that we continue down the path of the suggested schedule that was given to us by the consultant.
And I'm going to throw another one in the mix. Seeing that the hurricane season is soon upon us, and we have the ODPM down here, and seeing that the timetable for meetings is not what it used to be, where we used to have a fixed Wednesday. Our next meeting is nearly just three weeks away. That we bring the ODPM up to the next meeting. Yes. Right? Bring ODPM, and then the following Wednesday we bring the Ministry of Agriculture, Investment and Fisheries.
No problems with that, Chair.
That's fine, members.
So what you're suggesting, Chair? ODP.
We will have the next meeting, and then the meeting after that, then we will go with Ministry of Investment,
Commerce,
and Agriculture,
and then Ministry of Agriculture.
But we will also add to the list list here the Ministry of Education asking for heart, right? No, I'm saying adding to the list. We have not set a date, but we are adding to the list that the member has asked, right? And when we come to the next meeting, then we will set a date when it is that we bring.
Not the Ministry of Education, though, Chair.
No, Ministry of Education, because
it falls under
the Ministry of Education.
Falls under the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation.
There's some change.
Well,
so be it.
Thank you for the correction.
But just allow me to say one thing for the benefit of my colleagues. We have in the past, the ministries want time to prepare reports and so forth. We had developed a practice, for example, of giving them a minimum of 2 weeks, right?
Said that earlier.
Yeah, so I'm only saying that when we make these decisions early to schedule entities to come, it is to assist them. Because sometimes even when you give them 2 weeks, they want to make requests for more. So the more we can make these, the more... No, allow me to finish my point, please. If you listen, you may hear. But you can't hear if you don't listen. All I'm simply saying, members, the earlier we can settle on some of these things, we assist the ministries and the agencies in their preparation to come before us.
But that's all. That's what we said.
And also, members, I mean, my experience on the committee, there are things that are sometimes national issues, that we may break the schedule to bring that ministry or agency or department in dealing with, in looking into that MDA. So there's always flexibility at the level of the committee in dealing with matters like that, right? So I'm just saying that, members, it is not a matter that because it may be of national issues and persons may want to wonder, but it is also our responsibility as a committee to look into some of those matters that may arise.
Chair,
right?
I think we resolved the issue.
Yeah,
based on what you said, we'll put them on the schedule and then we will put a date.
And I'm also proposing that the ministry members, siblings, come. I'm also proposing that we also, because usually at a midway point we bring the Ministry of Finance to basically look at the expenditures that we add the Ministry of Finance on the schedule. Also, members, I'm asking you to also look at the matters to be reviewed and make your comments and recommendations in the matters that you want reviewed by the various MDs. All right? So, members, any other business? No other business? Thank you, members.
So move.
Meeting adjourned.